Hi and welcome to my autumn 2025 knitting plans video. I'm so excited to be filming this video for you today. I've been meaning to do this for several weeks now, and I've been getting my plans ready and thinking about all the things I would like to knit for the next 3 months. I'm really excited to be sharing those with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I normally film standard format podcasts on this channel. And you can find me as Leah Amber Knit on Ravelry on Instagram. I'll put loads of information down below, including the Ravelry bundle that I've created for all these patterns, so you can just pop in there and have a look at them yourself. As I said, I'm really excited. This is the first season of knitting that I've had in the last few years, really, where I felt comfortable making a planning video. And that is because I'm normally a very impulsive knitter. I like to cast things on whenever they first come out. I like to apply for test knits. I like to design things myself. And at the moment, I'm at a point in my life where I just want nice and calm and relaxing knitting. And I want to make some plans and actually look at my stash and knit from my stash. So this is my from stash video as well, which I'm extremely excited about. I've been making this list for quite a few weeks and I've changed a fair few things in it. And I'm so sorry, the dog has decided to sneeze and roll around and make loads of noises. So if you're new here, I will put a picture of both my dogs in case they don't make an appearance later on. But I have a funny feeling that I might have to continue stroking one of them throughout this video. If you see me looking down, it is because I have a tablet here and I've got my bundle open on this tablet, so I can show you, or I can look at the information myself and then show you on screen here what I am talking about. I have, how many patterns have I got here? 6, 7, 8 things I would definitely like to knit, and then a few maybes at the end. Like I said, all of these are from stash, but I would like to just make a couple of little disclaimers before I start. The first thing being that these are plans, but if they don't completely work out that way, that is absolutely fine. Nothing is really set in stone here. I will probably be filming a video at the beginning of December or very late November to let you know how this planning video went, how the 3 months of knitting went with my plans. And there comes the dog appearance. And yeah, to let you know how it went and whether I was successful in my plans. And then probably if I'm still sort of feeling the same about my knitting, about making plans and things, I will also let you know what my plans are for the next few months, because that's when we will definitely be very well into Christmas knitting. So before my dog knocks the tripod over, a second quick disclaimer. I have mostly chosen size inclusive patterns. As you might know, if you've been following me for a while, size inclusivity is extremely important to me. However, I do occasionally knit things that aren't completely size inclusive, and I will let you know as and when we get to the patterns if that is the case. Sorry, the frame changed. I have a dog laying on her back here and she just knocked the tripod over. As I was saying, I really don't enjoy watching videos that are pattern roundups or planning videos and things like that, where the creator who's making the video shares too much information in terms of numbers. So anything that has too many numbers in it, such as sizes and yardages required and the different needle sizes required, I just pretty much instantly switch off and I lose interest. So I'm not going to bore you with those details. If you want to know those details, please just click the link in the description box to the Ravelry bundle and you'll find all that information there. So what I will be sharing with you is, first of all, what the pattern's called and what the designer is called. I'll pop a picture up here to show you as well. Then I will tell you about the construction of the item and what yarn weight is required for the item. And then I will show you what yarn I am choosing to use. And at that point, I will also let you know if the sizing doesn't fully qualify for size inclusivity, why I'm still choosing to make this pattern. So, all that said, let's jump in. My first project is actually not in this bundle because it is currently a test knit that I have on the needles. I have a few lingering projects from August still left. And the one that I'm sort of pulling into this planning video is the White Day Cardigan by Maya Deglon from Maya Tink's podcast. I'll pop a picture in here. This is currently in testing, so it's not on Ravelry yet, but if you go and follow Maya on her channel and on Instagram, you will see all the information about it there. This cardigan is knit top down. It is a saddle shoulder cardigan, and it is constructed in a really interesting manner in that the saddles, unlike most saddle shoulder cardigans or sweaters, they aren't pure rectangles, which is normally the case. Normally you knit 2 rectangles and then you pick up stitches and you knit from there and you do all the shaping with short rows in the front and back. With this cardigan, Maya has put all the shaping into the actual shoulder panels themselves. So there is some tapering in there and a tiny bit of short rows as well. It's really interesting and fun to knit. And then when you pick up the stitches, the front and back are pretty much just plain sailing with some underarm shaping. So very, very excited to be making this. I am using, I have yarn around me, so I need to see if I'm grabbing the correct one. I am using this yarn here. This is Yarn Smith's Pebble Haze Aran in the shade Ludlamite. This was very kindly gifted to me by lovely Emily from Emily Knit, and she was the main inspiration for this video. She was so enthusiastic and so happy to be sharing her autumn knitting plans, and she's really given me the bug for planning and looking at my stash, and I was so excited to make this video after seeing hers. So if you haven't seen hers yet, I highly recommend you watch it. But she gifted me this for my birthday, and I'm using it for my White Day cardigan, which is a Aran or DK plus fluff kind of pattern. Maya's patterns are all size inclusive, so I don't need to mention anything about that there. Right, let's jump into some patterns that are already published, and patterns, first of all, for things that I'm going to be making for other people, which you might be aware if you've been here for a while. Sorry, fluff flying around. If you've been here for a while, you'll be aware that I am not a mad keen gift knitter. Being totally honest, I like knitting for myself. I really enjoy knitting for myself. And my dog is attacking the ball of yarn I've just dropped on the floor. But I've got a couple of things I really want to knit for some other people. So first things first is the No Purl Ribbed Scarf by Purl Soho. This is a free pattern on the Purl Soho website, and it is an extremely straightforward scarf pattern in that you, I think, knit 3 and purl 1. So it's like a knit 3, purl 1 rib, and then that sequence is offset on the wrong side, meaning that you create this sort of almost like 3-dimensional textured rib that looks really interesting but hardly uses, oh no, this one has no purls at all. I do apologise. I think it's knit 3 slip 1 rather than knit 3 purl 1. It's in the title, isn't it? How could I miss that? I've been looking at too many different textured patterns and I've completely... This is a really good start, isn't it? Anyway, I'm not going to edit this out because there we are. It is an Aran weight pattern, and as with most scarves, you know, how long is a piece of string? You can make it as long as you like. I plan to use Filcolana Panilla, which is Filcolana Peruvian Highlands Wool Little Sister. It is a sport weight yarn, 100% wool. This is the shade H28. I've had it in stash for ages. I'm planning to hold it double and make a scarf for my dad, who has wanted a scarf for a little while, so hopefully I will actually manage to make this for him. I've got, I think, 5 or 6 balls of this, so if it's not enough, I will just order some more, because I did look in my stash if I found something that would be nice to stripe, but it wasn't quite right. So I'm just gonna stick to this yarn. Okay, next up we have the A Little Harmony Cardigan by Manmi Choi, which is a top-down drop shoulder cardigan in, I believe in this case correctly, knit 3 purl 1 offset rib. But again, I could be wrong. As I said, it's top down. It is a DK weight pattern, and interestingly knit on 5mm needles. So I'm not sure how that works, but I will probably be using 4 or 4.5. And let me have a quick look at the sizes. They go up to a finished chest circumference of 62 inches. and I know 60" is sort of the cutoff point for size inclusivity, but they the interesting thing about this carding is it's shown in so many different sizes on the same model, so it is really up to you how much positive ease you would like. So in a way, this is size inclusive, provided you're happy to just have 2 inches of positive ease if you are the largest size. But if you'd like more ease, then it's ever so slightly off. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to slightly not size inclusive patterns that I'm still willing to knit. The really interesting thing about this pattern is that it has this really, really beautiful cable running down both fronts. It very much looks like a heart sort of chain, which I thought was really interesting. It just looks really cute and it looks really fun to knit. And the button bands are applied after, I believe, in ribbing. And I saw this, and sort of in a more oversized manner, I thought this would really suit my mum. This would be something she would like to wear. I know she enjoys wearing a cardigan. So the yarn I'm going to be using is this yarn here. This is a yarn I bought at Wonderwool 2024, and I bought it with my mum in mind, and I just haven't knit anything with it yet. And it looks extremely thin. If I just show you here, it is a very fine fingering weight yarn, but the way I understand it is this yarn is going to bloom a lot. It is called a 100% Shetland type wool fine 4-ply, and I inquired with the vendor, because the vendor wasn't like the producer of this yarn. I inquired with him what Shetland type means, and if I remember correctly, if memory serves, it basically means that it was spun in the same way as you would spin a Shetland wool, such as Jamieson's of Shetland, but it isn't 100% Shetland actual from Shetland sheep wool. There might be some Shetland in there, but it's definitely 100% wool. It just, you know, it might not be all Shetland, and it's actually really soft. It's really, really nice, and I have a feeling this is going to bloom a lot when it's knitted up. So I'm almost certain I'm going to knit this pattern, because I will have to swatch with this and see whether that will work out. Next, we have the Halibut Sweater by Caitlin Hunter, which is a top-down circular yoke sweater featuring this extremely beautiful halibut fish design colourwork on the yoke. And mine is actually fairly far into the making. So I just wanted to share this with you here. This is my halibut sweater that I cast on, I think, last winter. And as soon as it got to the stage where you could see that there are fish on this pattern, my partner immediately said that he would really like to have this sweater. This is a DK weight sweater, and I am using Wendy Mode, which is a 50-50 wool acrylic blend. Have decided to have a fight. Hey, come on. I'm so sorry. This is really not turning out how I had planned. So this, as you can see, got abandoned after the yoke was complete, and that is because I don't really enjoy stockinette knitting all the time, especially not on black yarn. So I kind of stalled on it there, but I would really like to make this pattern, because Casey from Young Folk Knits is currently is currently hosting the Fish Girl Fall Knit Along, and I would like to join in on that. Apologies for that interruption. There was just too much dog noise going on. I hope they've stopped now, but we will see. The last thing to mention about the halibut sweater is that it is a fully size inclusive pattern, and yeah, if you fancy joining in on this knit along, I think it would be a great option. Next up, we have the Astrid Sweater by Pernille Larsen from Knitting for Olive. This is a bottom-up drop shoulder sweater featuring this beautiful curved ribbed hem that was sort of the eye-catching feature of this pattern. And I remember when this first came out, I thought it would look really intriguing, but I think I was put off by the fact that it was bottom-up. And I have since decided that I would really like to try a bottom-up pattern. The thing that saves this pattern for me from being a bottom up is that the sleeves are knit top down, so I can adjust the sleeve length, which is quite important to me, but I'm just going to trust the length for the body, because I'm sure it's going to work out if I just follow the instructions, because she's a very experienced designer. This is a DK weight pattern, and the other reason why I would really like to try this out is because as it's knit bottom up, the shoulders are seamed in a different manner from a usual drop shoulder pattern. And I have alluded to this in my last episode on my podcast, but I talk about this frequently. I have a lot of sensory issues with my neck. I don't particularly like a round yoke. I don't really like most raglans because they come up too high. I really like a drop shoulder because the neck shaping is normally really, really nice. I also really like a saddle shoulder. The only issue I have with a drop shoulder is that the back panel is normally created via making loads and loads of increases on a trapezoidal shape. And these really frequent increases, normally every row, create a really stiff, really taut shoulder seam at the back here. And depending on the pattern, depending on how much ease you've got, and depending on whether there are short rows in the sleeves, when you move your arms around, you can really feel the tightness of that shoulder seam, and I really hate that. And I think a bottom-up construction might be totally different because there's obviously not going to be increases, it's going to be decreases, and from my understanding, decreases won't create this kind of tightness. So I'm very, very excited to try this out. The yarn I plan to use is King Cole Simply Denim DK in this beautiful shade 5507 turquoise denim. This is a lovely, lovely cotton acrylic blend. It's one of my favourite yarns, and I've knit something in this before, but it turned out too big, so I ended up gifting it. So I'm really, really excited to have something in this yarn for myself. And speaking of King Cole Simply Denim, they also do a chunky version. In some of the shades I think overlap and some of them don't, so I'm not 100% sure how that works, but this is the shade Sky Denim. And I plan to make the Shalcott cardigan by Coco Amour Knits, also known as Cheryl Mokhtari, which is a chunky weight top-down drop shoulder cardigan in all over fisherman's rib, where the wrong side of the fisherman's rib is sort of the feature of the pattern. So I'm very, very excited to give this a go. This pattern only came out the other day, and the one thing I will say that's a bit confusing is that on Ravelry it says yarn is DK plus lace equals worsted, but then the DK strands that she uses, for example Gepard Garn Puno or Camaro Snefnug, are both listed as chunky weight yarns. So it doesn't quite add up there, the calculation that I think Ravelry creates for you in terms of yarn weight. So just be mindful of that, especially because I personally, as an experienced knitter, I can often just start knitting, check my gauge regularly and figure things out from there. But a fisherman's rib gauge is totally different from a stockinette gauge. So I often actually have to swatch for this and really keep an eye on it because it also stretches in different kind of ways. But yes, this is what I'm planning to use for my Shalcott cardigan, and I'm very excited to get started on that very soon. The next pattern I would love to make is the Upstream cardigan by Alice Hoyle, also known as Rose Knitwear. And this pattern doesn't actually exist on Ravelry. You can't buy it on there, you have to buy it on their website. But it is a listing on Ravelry, so you can go and look at it on there. And I've also put it in the bundle. This is a Aran weight pattern, and I am planning to use another Yarn Smith's Purple Haze, this time in the shade Lapis Lazuli, which is this gorgeous, vibrant blue, which I'm very, very excited to use. I just received that in the post today. This was a lovely gift from a friend via a Wool Warehouse voucher, so I'm very, very grateful to have this in my stash ready for this pattern. As you can see in the photo, this is a really interesting textured pattern because it sort of alternates between 2x2 ribbing and garter, which creates these really cool waves. And this is a raglan sweater, and I just mentioned that I don't really like a raglan sweater, and this one is a little bit different to me because it's already got a mock neck on there, and as much as I don't like anything that sort of comes to there, if the whole neck is covered, it seems to bother me less. So there is that. The sizing is a little bit interesting in this one. If I'm not mistaken, and it's not listed again on Ravelry, I'd have to open the actual pattern, which I don't have on my tablet right now. But if I'm not mistaken, the largest sizes, again, won't have exactly the right amount of ease as is prescribed by the pattern. So this isn't a completely size inclusive pattern, but it does have 8 sizes, so it's not totally off either. And as someone who has designed a few things and who has really struggled to find test knitters in the biggest sizes, I can often sort of forgive if the sizing doesn't quite go there, but as long as it gets close, that is good for me. I personally also think, I don't really know where this 60-inch line was, why this 60-inch line was drawn. Why not 62? Why not 58? You know, who created this line? So I think as long as we get pretty close, I can get on board with that. And I think designers who are supported, who make sales, who expand, will often end up expanding their size range at a later point when they feel that they can actually get test knitters for them. The one thing that I thought was really interesting is that this pattern actually states that sizes 4 and 5 are identical, and you can see that on the website rather than on the Ravelry listing. And I haven't fully looked into that, and I don't think I'll be knitting size 4 or 5, so it doesn't really affect me. But I think it's because the stitch pattern repeat is so large that the sort of standard sizings that this designer probably uses, like most designers do, the stitch pattern doesn't fully fit into them, so you kind of have to adjust every size. And I'm guessing size 4 is quite a bit bigger than size 4 would normally be, and size 5 is a tiny bit smaller than size 5 would normally be, and they're just meeting in the middle, and that's why they are the same size because of this. I believe it's like a 16 stitch gauge, no, 16 stitch pattern, sorry. It is a 23 stitch gauge actually, because it's really quite densely knitted with the rib that pulls it together. So I have already swatched for this one. I'm very, very excited to be knitting this. Okay, let's jump into the last pattern that I have yarn for ready that I'm certain about. And it is the Cara sweater by Le Knit or Lena Helmer Samso. This is a DK weight top down raglan pattern with all over cables. As you can see in the photo, it is absolutely beautiful. I remember the first time I saw this, I thought, wow, this is really stunning. And I know I've told you I don't like a raglan, but you might be able to see in the photo, the front neck is quite low. So I believe a lot of this yoke, because it's knit top down, is actually knit flat before you join at the front. And that is a way that I can really get on board with raglan patterns. This pattern goes up to a 60-inch finished measurement, which again means, depending on how much ease you like, it is not quite there, but it's almost there, which is a little bit of a shame for a really big designer like this. But I think this pattern was published in 2022, so maybe she wasn't quite as successful at the time and, you know, wasn't using the bigger size sort of range, because I think it might be slightly better now. As I said, it's a DK weight pattern. It is all over cables, and I think it uses a fair amount of yarn because it is all over cables. And I'm planning to use Drops Cotton Merino. So Drops have just started a new sale, and I have always wanted to buy this yarn, and I've decided to finally give in and purchase a sweater quantity. And this is in the shade Pistachio Ice Cream. So again, very on brand, very me kind of colour. I have noticed that everything apart from things that I'm knitting for other people are all bluey green, and that's just how it is over here. What can I say? So I'm very excited to try this yarn out. I've been meaning to try it for ages, and it feels really, really lovely. So I think it's going to be absolutely wonderful. I have actually got one more pattern that I've got yarn for that I want to mention that I completely forgot. This is the yarn. I'm going to start with the yarn for this one. This is Lamana Como in, let me have a look if this has a shade name. No, colour 24. And the camera will show this up totally wrong. It is more green than you can see it here. It is a pretty true teal, I would say. And Lamana Como is a very interesting yarn in that it is a thin DK. It has a yardage of a DK weight 50-gram ball, but it actually only weighs 25 grams. It is light as anything. It's really beautiful. And I've got 3 balls of this in stash, and I think, but I'm not 100% sure, I think I'm going to make the crown shy, just called crown shy, not crown shy beanie. I was about to say beanie. The crown shy by Isolde Teague, which is a DK8 pattern, and it features a beautiful folded stockinette brim and then loads of stunning cables coming out the top, and I think that would be really fun. And I think compared to a regular stocking stitch hat, this will use a little bit more yarn up, which would be great because I would love to use as much as possible of those 3 balls. I would like to finish this video with a few honourable mentions. First of all, I'd like to knit a pair of fingerless mittens, and I was looking through my Ravelry library, I find that so hard to say, and I came across the field mittens, which I've already purchased, which is a pattern by Camilla Vad, and you have probably come across some patterns by Camilla Vad before with this field patterning on them. It basically looks like wheat, I would say, or barley, something like that. It's sort of got a grain kind of pattern on it, and they look really cool. And I would really like to make those. They're only in one size, they're a DK8 pattern, but I think they would be really fun to make. So they are kind of on my radar, and I'm going to leave them in my bundle, but I'm not sure if I'm going to make them. The next pattern that I would really like to make, but again, I haven't really got yarn in stash that's perfect for it, is the Rosy Sweater, also by Lena Helmer Samsa or Le Knit. She has recently released this pattern, and I was really excited by this release because I really love her porcelain sweater, but I'm not really prepared to knit a lot of colour work flat because I know my tension is going to be completely sloppy and different because my English purling is not very good. So I would prefer to knit colour work all in the round. And when she put the Rosy Sweater out, I could see that it was also one of my favourite construction types. It's like a contiguous European shoulder, and then it also has the colour work, which is really fun. It is a DK8 pattern, work top down, and yes, I would love to find yarn for that at some point and knit that sweater. The next pattern that's also on my radar is the Ship Shape cardigan by Heidi Kirrmaier, which has been out for about a year, I think, a year and a bit. And it just looks so fun to knit. It looks really well tailored, and the stripes are really fun. And I love Heidi Kirrmaier patterns. I first started knitting them when I first started knitting garments for myself. So this is definitely on my radar. It's a DK8 pattern. And I think I might like to use up some summery yarns that I have left over. My only issue is that if I use more than 2 colours, I won't be able to carry the yarns, the other colours along, and I'll have to cut yarn. And that is because this cardigan doesn't really have any finishing along the front. I think the whole buttonholes are actually built into the fabric. So there isn't really anywhere to hide all these ends, because my favourite thing to do with cardigan knitting is to finish whole rows when I run out of yarn and then change ball there, because you can weave in the ends into the selvage edge after you pick up for the button band, be that a double knit or a rib or whatever. There's a little selvage edge on the inside and you can weave your ends in there, and it's really invisible and you can't see it in the main fabric. Especially in sort of summery cotton plant-based yarns, which is something I would like to use for this cardigan and use it then for spring. So I might have to take the plunge and buy this pattern and figure out how she changes yarns. Does she change colour at the front? Does she change it at the underarm? Is there something different? Because if there's more than one yarn, I would have to cut yarn every time and then weave them in. And that was a very focal point right here at your front where, you know, the eye is drawn to this area, especially if you use nice buttons. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, because somebody did make a version with loads of different colours and it looks really cool. So it must be doable, but yeah, just kind of concerned about what I'm going to do with the ends. Another pattern that is probably the most likely thing to happen of this list of maybes is the Sylvan Sweater by Annetta Blair. What does she go by? She goes by something else. I can't tell you now because it's not on here, but she definitely goes by something else on Instagram. This is a Aran weight top down sweater featuring this absolutely gorgeous cable that goes across the back and then down the sleeve and then along the front. I really want to knit this. And there is a small chance that the upstream sweater is going to get ditched for this pattern. It might happen. I do also have some red yarn in stash that might work for this. Whether I fancy red or not is, you know, left to be determined at a later point. But this is definitely another pattern that I would really like to knit. I was really excited when I saw this when it first came out. And I believe it is, again, almost size inclusive. The finished bust circumference goes up to 60¼ inches, but you should really have 6 inches of positive ease, so it falls a little bit short. And there seems to be a bit of a theme emerging there. I seem to find a lot of patterns that are almost there but not quite. And lastly, a pattern that was recently available for free is Cleared for Takeoff by Callie Monster. I think she goes by Monster Knits. And it is a sort of slip stitch triangular shawl that she recently put out there as a free pattern, temporarily as a free pattern. I think currently you'd have to pay for it again. But it is designed for colour changing yarn, and I've got loads of King Cole Riot in my stash that I would love to use up. I would just have to get a main colour to go with it. I think it's intended for fingering weight yarn, but it's a shawl. It doesn't really matter. You can sort of play around with gauges for these things. So that is the last thing that I've got kind of on my radar. And then I will start looking into Christmas knitting after I've completed some of these things, because I would really like to knit myself a Christmas sweater this year. And at the moment, the highest contender is the Holly sweater by Pernille Larsen from Knitting for Olive. I'll pop a picture in here if you've not seen it before, because it says Christmas but doesn't shout Christmas. I think somebody else put that on their podcast, and I thought that was really interesting, because that's kind of the sweet spot I'm looking for. So if you have any ideas for Christmas sweaters that I can start looking at, please let me know. And if any of these patterns tickle your fancy and you've seen them and you'd love to knit them alongside me, please, please, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to buddy knit some of these with somebody. It would be really exciting to sort of cheer each other on and help each other out. So if you discover something new as well, let me know. Just leave me a comment about anything that you found exciting about this video, any patterns that really stuck out to you that you would like to knit. And I'm so excited for this season. I'm so excited for these plans. I'm so excited to have all this yarn already at my fingertips, and I can just reach for whichever one tickles my fancy first. So thank you so, so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would love it if you could hit subscribe and like and comment, or message me on Instagram. That's also really fun. And happy knitting and happy autumn, and see you soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.